calling all educators with a passion for teaching and a health for faith. Get ready for a transformative journey with the Educators with Oil podcast, where host Ronette Branham is dedicated to helping teachers become better through biblical strategies.
Greetings, fellow educators. I'm Ronette Branham, your host of Educators with Oil podcast. Join me weekly as we explore the intersection of teaching and faith, unlocking the power of biblical strategies to enhance your effectiveness in the classroom. Teaching is not just a profession, it's a calling, and we believe that by integrating timeless biblical principles, we can elevate our teaching to new heights.
Tune in for insightful conversations, practical tips, and stories that will inspire and equip you in your educational journey. Ronette Branham is here to guide you with a unique blend of educational wisdom and biblical insights.
Let's explore together how faith can inform our teaching practices, creating a positive impact on both us and our students.
Subscribe to Educators with Oil podcast on your preferred platform and join Ronette on this mission to empower teachers through the wisdom of the Bible. Because when biblical strategies meet the classroom, extraordinary teaching happens.
Educators, let's shine a light on our classrooms. See you on Educators with Oil podcast, where teaching and faith unite. Hello, welcome to Educators with Oil podcast. I'm your hostess, Ronette Branham, here to offer biblical strategies for effective teaching. Thank you for joining me today. I am excited about our episode today. I did some regrouping in my classroom. I got to the point where I have students of all language abilities. You know, I have the Spanish speaking students, some newcomers to the country, some who have been here, some who have limited English, some who are fluent in English, so different levels. And in reading, I have different levels. So having different levels of language and different levels of academic performance, putting that together, that was something that I had to figure out what it is that I need to do and how can I fix, how can I make it work for my students. And of course, for myself, you just have to make things work, but you have to be on board with what it is you're doing. So I just had to sit down with myself. Sometimes you got to have some get together with some sound counsel. So I had to sit down with myself and I had to figure out, how am I going to make this work? I have students who are working at second grade level. They're ready to learn contractions. They're ready to learn all the spelling patterns. They're ready to learn so much. And then I have other students who don't know their letters, or even if they don't know their letters, they don't know the language. So it's like, you don't know the language, you don't know the letters. You know the language and you know the letters and you can read. So working with all of that at the same time, then you have those in the middle. So I had to figure it out. So like I'm trying to teach long vowel sounds, right? Spelling patterns for long vowel sounds. Whatever I did A, O, E, right? We're trying to learn it. At the same time, how can you teach the whole group? You teach in second grade, you can do it, I do it. So you're teaching at that level. But then you have students, you're like, A, apple. They don't know that's an A. They don't know the sound of the A. They're like B, B, bat, right? B, bat, B, like Z, zebra, Z. They're trying to get it, but they don't have it. And then you have students who are reading all at the same time because you have to do that whole group. You have to do phonics in the morning. Then I'm giving students sentences, dictating sentences, and then I have students who are done. They're ready. They're like, okay, I'm done. And then a whole group of students, half the class, is taking 15 minutes just to write one 5-word sentence. Then you have some who have no clue what to write. And then I have to, okay, here's the second sentence. They're done 3 sentences, and I have these students over here who are So I had to figure this thing out. I had to sit down, regroup, see how am I going to group my students, how to make it a benefit for the entire class. You know, if you have to break your class in half and say, these students right here, I know we have to do all this whole group stuff, but sometimes you can't. Sometimes you can't. You can say, I don't know who's watching here. Sometimes you can't do that. Sometimes you got to take that class and split it in half. So you have this high group and these people on the cusp where you can work together. These are getting it solely. And then the ones on the cusp, they can grab it, right? And then you have that lower level academically performance group who, like I said, they might not even know their letters, may not understand what you're saying. You have them over here, you can teach them. And then you have someone on the cusp that they know it, but they can't write a word, or they can write CVC words. So you have them together and you teach a whole lesson, and you can do it and it won't feel like a struggle, because you know you're not dictating sentences to these groups of students. So sometimes you just have to divide that class in half and do your whole lesson at your grade level with these students, right? While the other students are sitting somewhere reading a book, doing something that they can do, rotating with it. Maybe they have some where they place the beginning sounds. They may do something, but whatever your grade level is, this is second grade, so I'm relating to a second grade class, because it could be a fifth grade class who people who are reading high school level, they may have to dissect a book, and they may have to use a point of view of the characters. And then these over here, they don't even understand what the book is about, you know? So divide that class in half. We have to do things like that. Divide that class in half if you have to. That way you can have 2 whole lessons during your block of ELA, 2 whole lessons without feeling like you're leaving people behind, or you're feeling like you're doing a disservice to these over here. That's how you could make that work. And why would you do that? Again, you will regroup because your class gets tailored instruction. Your students get tailored instruction to where they are in their academic progress, in their academic performance. Where are they? Are they reading high school level? Are they understanding, comprehending? I remember I had a tutor, a student. He was in high school. He was really pretty smart, but he didn't understand how to examine text. The first book I had with him, he had to read Great Gatsby. He couldn't understand it. His mother, they paid me big bucks because he was failing literacy. You know, he was an Asian student. I don't know how I'm saying that, but his parents were big on education, right? So this little boy is failing literacy or English. It was English. So he was failing, and he needed to understand. So I taught him how to read a story. I taught him how to do that. Man, mind you, he was really bright, but it was set in the 20s, I think. He couldn't understand the story. He couldn't understand the language. So we broke down each page, each scene, and what's happening in that scene. Imagine what's happening in that scene. By the time I got finished with him, before I got finished with him, he didn't need me anymore, because I taught him how to dissect the story, how to read a story, how to understand what's happening, how to visualize what's happening. So he was in a literacy where he should have been on this particular level where all he had to do was interpret it, say what was happening. But he couldn't even understand the story because he felt like it was too much for him. So I taught him how to understand reading, what he's reading. And then he was able to go back in his class and perform. Like, he didn't need me anymore. It was like we were just wasting our time. Then he asked me to, because he didn't need me, he asked me to help him study for his SAT. I was like, well, that's out of my expertise. I can't help with that. But once you tailor lessons with students, they're going to have growth. You're going to see, they're going to get wins, and everybody's going to be excited. They're going to be excited. You're going to be excited. Their parents, whoever, all stakeholders, right? Because you have to teach at their level. I mean, I have been struggling because it was like, okay, so these students are over here playing. They're not listening because for one thing, they don't understand what I'm saying. I'm going too fast. Even if I slow it down, I'm going too fast because they don't understand the language. Not to mention that they don't know their letters to even write words. Why am I writing these letters together? I'm just writing what she says to write, you know. And then it just was like, okay, we have to figure this thing out. I got students who I know need extra help, and I can't even give the exact definition of what they need, the exact words for what it is that they need, because I have all these students on all these varying levels. But I did one thing to that. I broke down that class in half. And then this is this group, and you're going to come up here with them. This is this group, you're going to go down here with them, because you all need the same thing. You may at a little bit different level, but that's what I had to do. So it is beneficial for your students to have that direct intervention, those strategies just for them, customized support. When they have customized support, everybody's happy. Then you're talking to them differently, because they can do it. I did that. I know we're talking about reading, but I did it with math. I had these students with me today and yesterday, and I said, you're going to come back with me today. And we worked on place value chart, subtracting with the place value chart. And I said, look, tomorrow, we went over so many, and then they told me what to do, and then they're doing it on their own. They're solving the equations. I said, tomorrow it's going to be a new group. Tomorrow, you're not going to sit here because you're going to be experts, right? I gave them that, and then they're smiling and grinning. So you take this rest of this paper home today for homework. This is what you're going to do. So it was just awesome. And then another student came over, and she was trying to sit with us. She had her answers all right, and she was just talking and adding and subtracting. And I'm like, well, why are you here? You already know what to do. All of these equations are right. The answers are right. Solutions are right. So I'm going to need you to go back to your seat. I'm going to let somebody else sit in this spot. So working at a group's level, it works for them when they're all working on the same thing. Then with the breaking the groups into homogeneous groups where you're working on one skill, or for these students, you're going to get, like I said, incremental success. You're going to be able to see it, like I did today with the math. I was able to see it. They were able to see it. They are smiling. I have a little student, she doesn't even talk. She's talking, answering questions. I was a little too pushy, where she just stopped, and she got distracted. She didn't really know what to do, because she really didn't want to talk. So, but she was answering questions. Well, I let her choose an equation, for us to work on. And then she got like, oh my goodness, I put her on the spot. So then I just relax. Which one you want, 3 or 5 or something like that? So then she chose. But when I gave her the whole choice, it was a little bit too much. But working in the group, she was happier. She was answering questions. She was smiling. She left with a whole big grin on her face. So if you group the students according to their skill level, they'll be happier. They'll get success. You'll be happy because you feel like you moved the needle somewhere. Moving the needle for your students is what we're trying to do. We want our students go from, if they're reading a level A to a level F, like we want to move it, but we know it's going to take some time. We know we're going to have to work on it. It's not going to just come easy, especially when you're working over their head. You're teaching at this great level with great level expectations. We know what they should be doing at this grade level, but then they're not even there. They're not even trying to be there. They don't know how to be there. So you're teaching over their head. So it's like you're wasting valuable time with these students trying to teach at the grade level when they're not there. Or you have to lower the standards to another grade level lower than the one you're at. And then these students that are way up here, they're missing out. Like you're just wasting their time. So split that in half, give these students something to do while you work and teach a whole lesson with another group of students. And then of course you could have your small groups, and then when you push them out, these students have something to do for 10 minutes. They have something to do for 10 minutes, and then you rotate it and bring that other group in. It absolutely works. Grouping your students according to their skill levels. Sometimes you need to group according with, mixed ability grouping, where it will give them a balance of peer support and challenges. Sometimes you have to push students just to see how other people are thinking, how they could answer a question. It will get the wheels turning if they feel like they have to have that higher order thinking. That happens too. So you may have students who really don't get CVC words or whatever it is, you doing silent letters. They really might not get it, but as you're working with them, there might be students on that level, and then they'll see like, they know that. Let me try it too. So you can get it, and then you have to consider your class size. How can you split your class? You have to consider that. Consider the behavior dynamics of your class. Are you able to break your class up into groups? Like yesterday, I split my class up into groups, and I had these 6 students who would be behavior problems, basically because what I'm teaching is over their head. Like they can't comprehend it. So we have behavior problems, right? They are not ready for what we're teaching. So because we have behavior problems, I kind of made a mistake. I had to stop what I was doing and go back and regroup, right? I had these 6 students they are a group. I gave them these books to read, same book. It was on Get Epic, same books. Okay, read this, this, and this. You are all going to read this book. So they're talking and playing and clicking and doing all kind of stuff. Wait, let's stop. So you 2 read together, then you two read together. I had to do it like that. And then you 2 read together and you read the same book. And if you can't read together, you 2, then you read on your own. We're not playing, we're not fooling around because you're distracting us over here who are reading this story, right? So that kind of stuff, you have to watch, your classroom dynamics. So you have to take everything in account for, the behavior of your students, all of that. The skill levels of your students. Are they able to work on their own? Will they, can they, and then some things that you can do during your during your small groups, because it could be different. It could be different skills that you're working on. You may work with guided reading, on a specific skill. With that guided reading, you may be working on letter patterns, and then you go back after you learn these letter patterns. Then you go have a book that specializes in those letters. Like we're learning long E vowels, letter patterns that make the long E sound. And then what we're going to do today, we got sidetracked because of this. We had a school store today for Christmas shopping. And so we got sidetracked. And right when we were about to get into that, after we learned all these words, we learned the words, we had spelling words, we had these things we were just putting together, working. Where would this word go? How do we spell this? What letter do I add to go from bed to bead, from fed to feed, things like that, right? So, and then if I want to add in, make the word happening now present tense, or if I want to add more than one, what do I do? So we were going to get into a story that had these sounds, long E sounds all over the story. And then we're going to find the words and make sure, because just because it has a letter E in it did not mean that it was a long vowel sound, right? So that's what we're going to do. So in guided reading activities, you could read together and then have an activity after that story, or teach a skill and then have the students read a story and then break the story down however they break it down. It could be, if it's nonfiction, it could be facts of the story, right? Because they can read the story now. So it's not just so that they could pick out long vowel sounds, but now they have this comprehension of these words. They can read at a different level. You've learned some things. So now you could read this story. Now you could give me some facts, because you're able to read at your level, at this level, whatever the level is, right? So guided reading helps you dissect a story. And then you could have where you're just, like I said, reinforcing a skill, like sight words, phonics. Somebody asked me last week, one day, I don't know, about how many sight words did a student know? And I don't know, because we don't do sight words in second grade. Like we do sight words, and I didn't understand that it was sight words that we're doing, even though I know it's sight words, right? But when I think of sight words, I'm thinking of that sheet of paper. We're going over those words. No, because in our phonics, we have new words every week. And then we have review words, trick words. So I was caught off guard as for what was how many sight words. I don't know, because I don't keep track of that. We learn the words and then we move on. You should be able to read these words now, because we practice these words. We put these words in sentence. We decided what the words meant. We said, what are the words in Spanish? What are the words in English? How do you use this thing? Right? Like that. The words are vocabulary words also, for the words are specific to what we're talking about. So I got thrown for a loop. Somebody asked me that. So just asking me that, I had to sit back too and say, but I had already decided how I was going to group my students anyway. So that just was something like, we don't do that. We don't do that. That's not what we do in second grade. That's a first grade thing. So just knowing that these students need to know these words. They should know these words. Like I gave students some spelling words. And I said, well, these are high frequency words that because you're in second grade reading, you need to know these words. So you don't have to know how to spell these words by Friday, but these spelling words, you're going to know them. You're going to put them in sentence. You're going to write a little paragraph using these words. You're going to have a story using these words, right? You're going to be able to tell me what it means, Spanish and English. But these high frequency words or sight words or whatever you want to call these words, I'm not going to ask you how to spell these words, right? I'm not asking you that, right? But when you come across these words in reading, you should know what they are. So that's just something that we did today. Where is my? Is that wrong? Okay, so also, what would you do, or what else? You could use literature circles also, to encourage critical thinking while you're doing in a small group. That could be a small group, like we were doing today. So we were doing not today, yesterday. We had a story, and it was a point of view story for one of my higher level groups. We had a point of view story where who's doing the talking in the story. They were saying all different kind of stuff. Well, let's look at the pictures. Let's dissect and listen what the person, it wasn't even a person, it was a jacket. What is this jacket saying? The jacket is saying, I like being in a closet. I want to stay hanging up. I don't want him to take me to school because he might color on me. His friends might play with me and make a cape out of me. So who's saying this? The mom. The boy. Can't be the mom, because the mom is the one who's hanging the jacket up. So we had to think. And so by them thinking, then they came up with all the answers. First, they were just guessing. They weren't thinking. They weren't listening to the story as well as they could have. But having these groups during that, your small group time, your reading group, that's something you can do. I don't care if it's a short level 8 book, or if it's a high school book. Have a group and we talk about group book discussions like we do. I'm in a part of a book club, a live book read, not a book club, a live book read. And we read the story every single morning, and we discuss what the book, our takeaways from the book, what did we get from the book? And then somebody will come with a different perspective and they'll say, well, I got this from this, but this is going to cause me. And that can happen right in our classrooms where the students are listening to what someone else is saying. When they thought one thing about the book, then they say, oh, I didn't think of that. That makes me think of whatever, So that's another reason to have different group your students together. And that is even a good reason to group your students together of varying levels, because it will cause everybody to have higher order thinking, higher order conversations. If I just don't listen, now I'm with this student who's answering all these high level questions, answers, and okay, now I'm going to think. It's going to cause their wheels to start turning. And then you could also, in these small groups, you could have creative tasks. You could have them act out a story. Say, okay, you're going to act out a story or these students are going to tell us different parts of the story that happened. First, he's going to tell us the first part, second part, third part, whatever, however many students you have. They're going to get together and stand in front of the class and tell what happened in the story that they read and what did they learn. Or they could act it out. They could have various parts, or they can draw, the story elements. They could write alternative endings. I know we did this. This is like something that I did prior. Now I have to do it again. Like it worked. So why did you stop? So go back into your arsenal and see what it is that you have that you used to do that worked and then you forgot because you got caught up in whatever you used to do. And so again, I go back to that, making sure that you establish a clear and visual rotating system. So tomorrow when I go back, I'm going to have how we're going to rotate, what we're going to do in our rotation so that it's clear. I used to have specifics in group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4, whatever, how many groups I had, and on the board, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Right? You're going to be with the teacher. You're going to be reading the story together. You're going to be writing. You're going to work on these words, whatever it is that you're doing. You might have a matching game, but so they'll know. And then when you get finished, you rotate this way. That is something that I have to get back to. So, because it worked, have that visual, that that's going to help. I do set the alarm. So I know when this alarm goes off, we're going to switch. So they do they understand that when the alarm goes off, if they're not finished doing whatever it is they were trying to do. And then, again, we all know that I have these English language learners. And that's something that it's crazy because I had that all of my teaching career. I started out in preschool. I had English. Well, prior I used to do substitute and long-term sub, and there wasn't English language learners. But once I started professionally teaching, I had English language learners in preschool. Those students didn't know English. They came in not knowing English. Some of them knew because they were 4. And then they came in. Then by the time we got to the middle of the year, they were my interpreters. Like they were interpreting things and telling their parents. So I have those students. So what you can do to help your students with the rotations and what they're going to do, use visual cues, gestures, use that Google Translate. That thing works. You speak it and it'll speak to the students. That thing works. You can use another student, right? Make sure you have scaffolds tailored to their proficiency level. Like I have this thing. I don't understand how come my students don't know how to line up and get in line and get in line face to front and get quiet. I don't understand. How come? Like it's nothing new. So they get in line, they make all this noise talking like they're going outside or they are outside. I just click on my computer. I have the big TV, click on a lineup song. On that song, I don't play the song. I just show the video. I show the picture of the video, the beginning, right? And it has this class lined up facing the front with their mouth closed, all smiling. I don't know if I said that here before, but that's what is happening, right? So, and then I said, look at this line. Are those students, what are those students doing? Should you be like these students? Are those students in that picture talking? Are they turning around, facing the back? No, they're all facing the front. I use that. And my students are like, once I put that on, they get in line and do what they should do. I don't know why they need that. I can't tell you why, because by now they shouldn't, but you need those visual cues. You need those gestures. I showed them at the beginning of the year how to say they need to go to the bathroom. I did like one finger. So instead of when we're talking and in discussion and then they're raising their hand and I think they have an answer, then they're like, can I go to the bathroom? What? Oh, we're not doing that. So put up one finger, then I just say go, right? Then now they have something where another teacher said this is what she does. She wants to do the same thing in our classes because we trade students where they don't ask. They just get up, grab the hand sanitizer, put it on their desk. One has a blue tape and one has a pink tape. So they know somebody's out. Only problem with that is they're not paying attention. They're seeing we're going to the bathroom. We're going to the bathroom. So I don't know how to fix that, but that's something. It's just a cue, a gesture, using that. So just knowing that you have to address the needs of your ELL students, that's something that we need to think about. We just need to think about that. Yeah. So, that's like it really is an excellent tool. You're absolutely right, because we have to use it. I have to use cues, visuals. I have to. So, or incorporate pictures. It's so funny because I said, I don't know if I said it last week, but I didn't have internet for like a month. I was going to my 4th week with no internet, right? So they had me drawing on the board. I was doing everything to get these students to understand what it is that I needed from them. We were talking about a story that had a giant fish. I was drawing, like, this is what we had to do, right? Making diagrams, having graphic organizers, flashcards. I had these students taking home these sight words the other day because somebody reminded me of that. Okay, they need to learn these words. This is what we're going to do, right? So there's so many things for ELL students. I think there's more for that. Well, actually, everything that we use everything that we use for ELL students, we use for everybody else. Really, using gestures, language that the students can understand. I know we're teaching these vocabulary words with our science, we're investigate and things like that. But then let's break it down. What does investigate mean in 2nd grade language? What does it mean in 1st grade language? What does it mean in 5th grade, 6th grade, high school? Investigate, like, are we going to look for something? We're going to try to find answers to something. So having those resources at hand is something that will build vocabulary, help the students read, on their level. All that, I think it's, I know that these things work. Also, I know I said on skill base. So, and then how do you know the skill level of your student? You go back and use the testing, the assessments. Look at those assessments. We're assessing these students so much. I swear we assessed our students. We did so many assessments at the beginning of the year. I think we took 2 months assessing students, right? So use those assessments. What is that reading level? What is that reading level? How are you going to group these students? Okay, you got the assessments. Okay, these students are this level. We're going to put them together. These students are that level. Whoa, this student scored the highest. And they're like, they broke the bell curve. There's no more bell curve because they're over here. They're outlier. So what are we going to do with them? We're going to have to bring them down and bring these up. Like, how are we going to do that? So there's a lot of thinking and research that's going into grouping our students. I swear, Sunday, I was 2 hours regrouping my students. Then I had to call my partner. I was doing all that, trying to make sure I got this tight. And then my partner is the Spanish part, and then she's like, "Oh, but she's high in Spanish. She can read a lot." And what? Because in English, no, that's not what's happening over here in the English world. So we had to group the students. Okay, well, I'm gonna put her with these because they'll pull her up. She's gaining ground, but these will pull her up instead of, stifling her like that. So we use that. And then also when you're teaching the students, tailoring their instruction for the ELL students, some things that we have to do is pre-teach vocabulary. I know our supervisors always saying that. Like, they are our supervisor, she's talking about, sometimes you have to pre-teach some words, pre-teach the vocabulary, get with your partner and see what the vocabulary is. What is it, if they have any cognates? And I'm like, I don't know cognates, right? I hate when they say that. Like, how you know I know Spanish? No, that's something different. I'm not going there. But you know what I'm saying? You have to be together and see what are the vocabulary words for this unit of science or social studies or whatever you're doing, math. And so You have to talk about add-ins. You have to talk about I don't know. I went to math, but you have to pre-teach the vocabulary. You talk about habitats. You're talking about trading and bartering, whatever it is you're talking about. You're talking about different countries, continents, whatever. You have to pre-teach some things before you even get to the story, because how are you going to just start going into the story? Because I did that so many times. Sitting down, we have this program, this reading program, and I'm supposed to read these stories. Reading the stories. How many times do I have to stop after a paragraph and pull up my computer, open my screen, and say, oh, this is that. This is a skyscraper. This story is talking about skyscrapers. So what is a skyscraper? Skyscraper, how do you say skyscraper in Spanish? I have the pictures. Oh, that's a tall, tall building. Yeah, that's a skyscraper. They mostly have them in the cities. That. You can go to different towns. Where is the tallest skyscraper? I mean, change the whole subject, trying to pre-teach. So it's something. And then also you can chunk. I hear people saying that all the time. You can chunk parts of the story. You don't have to teach the whole story. Just teach it in chunks. We're going to talk about this aspect. If it's science, we're going to talk about this. We're talking about today. I had a story. It wasn't even our science. This was for literacy, because so many students were buying in the store. I had to do something different, right? So we were talking about land shapers, like the air, the wind, the water, rain or whatever. And so we ended up talking about that. And then we ended up looking at videos of volcanoes erupting, like really earthquakes, what would happen, and what happens when there's an earthquake, and how the water in a pool was switching from side to side, things like that. I had to stop and talk about land shapers, and then we went way someplace else because they needed to understand what I was talking about, right? So do that, and then you have to model, so we can have a clear understanding what it is that you want from a student. Model, when you're reading, how to read slowly. And then if I don't know a word, what am I going to do? How am I going to figure out that word? I want to look at all the information around. Let's take out this word and still read the rest. That kind of thing. And sentence frames for our students. If we want for them to answer ELLs and we want them to answer a question and they don't know, they may know the vocabulary that we just gave them, have a sentence frame, a sentence frame that, I don't know, wind is a what? Surf is a, because we're talking about shape shifters, or this, I don't know, I can't think of a sentence right now, but you get the idea. You just have a sentence, leave out a blank word, leave out 2 words, and then let them fill those in. Maybe you have the words on cards and then they just fill it in like that. So, and then again, ELLs, make sure they have peer support. They don't always have to, but sometimes you put these students together when nobody understands what you're saying, and then you put them together. That does you're doing all the work, right? Maybe you have a student who is explaining. I have students, I could say something in Spanish and they'll interpret it and they'll translate it in Spanish to a student. I said that in Spanish. Why are you translating that? They didn't understand. They knew that they needed to translate for these students, but they didn't pay attention that she did say that in Spanish, right? So all of that, you have peer support is like a must when you have ELLs in your classroom, English language learners. And then you already know you could engage them by something that they have in common with together, and find stories that are of interest to them that'll make them want to read that content that you have. We know we can do that. That's a given. You could group students based on interest, but it might skew the lessons. A lot of people might want to learn about earthquakes, or they might be interested in volcanoes. Then there goes your small group. But then at the same time, you could talk about it at different levels. That's how our literacy program was prior, where every person in the school, if they were on unit 10, they were all talking about, maybe it was technology. I can't think of what it is now. Maybe it was technology. So everybody in the school, from kindergarten to 5th grade, no, we had 3rd grade. Everybody from kindergarten to 3rd grade had, they were talking about technology. Maybe they were talking about telephones, whatever. But the stories were different. The stories were, the stories were the same stories. Maybe they were on different levels, like that, or then they might have been Spanish and English, whatever. But doing that, I got distracted real fast. Let me see. That's for relevant, cultural relevance. We have to make sure we understand where the students' comprehension is at, where what they understand based off where they came from. They might not have any clue about cities because they didn't live. They lived in a country and they don't even understand how to discuss a city, things like that. So make sure it's culturally relevant, and then just know that whatever you do, you're not doing it for you. You're doing it for your students. You are called to be there. You're called to work with these students. We all know this is a calling. Not everybody could do it. Not everybody could be a teacher. I don't know many people. I've watched people come and try to teach and they weren't up to the challenge, and I that's just what it is. They were not up to the challenge. So that's just it. Like, I don't know. How do you say it? I don't know why I'm looking at my phone because it's totally distracting me. But understand that this is a calling. This is a gift. You're not here just because you wanted the summers off, because you worked so hard during the year. Having the summer off, you deserve it. We are a great group of people who are educators and teaching our students. You're not doing it for yourself. It's not for you. You have to be sold. And even if you're not, just think about, this is what I'm gonna have to do for my students. So that's just one thing that I know. That's just something that we have to know, that we have to understand. So I got to tell you this again. Grouping your students is beneficial to them. It's beneficial to you to have your classroom running smoothly if you have your student grouped according to skill level, according to that target that you're trying to reach. Grouping the students in small groups so that they will have success. Because if, like, I have been struggling teaching that whole group lesson to the whole class, when only have 6 students, 7 students at the most who are able to comprehend and perform at that level, the other students are sitting there by the wayside waiting for something to happen after that large group. No, I believe, this is me personally, split that class in half. Teach this level, these students. Teach this level, these students. I know we're supposed to teach all 2nd grade level, all grade level. You got to do it. But then when you break it down so they can understand it, because otherwise, why are you doing it? Why am I teaching? Because you got to expose the students to this. Yeah, I'm exposing them to everything 2nd grade. But at the same time, you got to get them where they're at and teach them there. So with that said, I am grateful that you are here to experience what it is I have for you. And if you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Find an educator and share this information with them, because this is what we need. We need our peers, our colleagues coming together, brainstorming with information, sharing information. Maybe I forgot something, and then I would be reminded by watching the podcast. Oh yeah, I used to do that, or I want to try this example, whatever. So just make sure that you share with your friends. Yeah, I appreciate you, Zenaida. And with that saying, I am Ronette Branham, the host of Educators with Oil. Educated with Oil, where we offer biblical strategies for effective teaching. It didn't sound so much today, but we know these are biblical strategies. You confer with counsel, great counsel, right? You train up a child in the way he should go. When he is old, he won't depart. You teach a child how to learn, they're going to continue to be a lifelong learner. That's a fact. I don't care who says different. That's a fact. That your students will be lifelong learners when they learn that learning is fun. When they understand learning is fun. So again, thank you for tuning in. Have a blessed day.